The first time I saw her legs explode in a cloud of magenta, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt stunned. Then came the blue bright theatrical, a puff of justice that clung to her white leggings like a confession. That was the moment I knew suburban peace had officially died, right there on my lawn in a neon storm of consequence. My name's Walter Collins, and I used to believe in polite boundaries. You know, the kind where a friendly smile and a please stay off the grass actually meant something. Then I moved to Pleasant View Heights, a neighborhood so manicured it could have been airbrushed, where perfection has rules and those rules have committees. And at the top of that pyramid of pettiness was my neighbor, Karen Whitaker. The visor, the Bluetooth headset, the power walk, timed like a Swiss watch. She lived 2 houses down, but somehow her shortcut to the mailbox went directly through the middle of my lawn. Every day, twice, like clockwork. At first, I told myself it wasn't worth it. You don't assume malice the first time someone steps where you've planted pansies. You assume ignorance. So one morning, sandals on mulch, still on my hands, I caught her mid-stride and said, "Hey, could you maybe stick to the sidewalk? I'm trying to get the grass to grow in that corner." She didn't even slow down. Just that little shrug, half smile, half dismissal. "It's just grass, Walter. It's faster this way." And she kept walking. That tone, God, that tone, like she'd just told a child to stop making a fuss. I tried everything. A cute gnome sign that said, "Please keep off the grass." It lasted 2 days before disappearing. Found it later in her trash bin buried under yard waste. I put up a decorative border fence a foot high, hardly intimidating. She stepped over it like an Olympic hurdler in Lululemon. Each trespass felt less like accident, more like statement. My convenience beats your boundaries. When patience finally snapped, I went the bureaucratic route. HOA complaint form printed in triplicate, filed under neighbor dispute. 2 weeks later, I got a letter that read like it was written by an AI programmed for indifference. The association encourages neighborly communication to resolve property issues. Translation: Good luck, sucker. I called the police non-emergency line. Same story. Sir, unless she refuses to leave after being asked, it's a civil matter. Civil. Right. Because what's more civil than trampling someone's flowers every morning? Still, I wanted to play fair. I bought a motion sensor sprinkler. Ingenious little thing. Harmless. Startling. 2 days later, the HOA fined me for creating a water nuisance. Karen had marched straight to their office dripping wet and righteously furious. The irony, my only crime was watering my own damn grass. That was the moment frustration turned creative. I didn't want revenge. I wanted deterrence, something theatrical, something that said, "Don't mess with me," without, jail time. Nights became research sessions, non-toxic powder, CO2 cartridges, spring triggers. My laptop history looked like a mix between a science fair and a felony. How to build harmless powder puffs. DIY pressure plate. Is color run powder legal? The plan was absurd and perfect. 6 small pods buried under the sod filled with bright cornstarch dye, washable, biodegradable, utterly humiliating. Step on one, get baptized in neon. The suburban equivalent of a warning shot. I hired Mudslide Mike, the local landscaper, told him I was installing experimental soil sensors. He didn't ask questions, just nodded, pocketed the cash, and buried the devices along the diagonal path Karen loved so much. When he was done, the lawn looked untouched, calm, almost smug, like it knew a secret. The waiting was agony. Every afternoon at 3:15 sharp, she power-walked by visor down white sneakers, phone glued to her ear. I'd sit by the window, heart-hammering coffee in hand, pretending to read emails while watching the inevitable unfold. That day, sunlight bounced off her sunglasses like a halo of entitlement. One step onto the grass, click puff. Magenta erupted like confetti at a parade. She froze mid-stride, face twisted between disbelief and horror. Then came the second step. Poof! Electric blue enveloped her leg. 2 steps, 2 colors. By the third, she was a walking art project. She screamed, dropped her phone, pointed at my house. "Walter, you attacked me. You booby-trapped your lawn." Neighbors peeked over hedges. Someone laughed. A kid shouted, "Cool." I opened the door. tried to look surprised. Good heavens, Karen, did you get into a fight with a rainbow? That didn't help. She stormed off, trailing neon footprints all the way home, calling everyone from the HOA to, I swear, the CDC. Within hours, I got my own avalanche HOA violations for public nuisance unapproved landscaping and my personal favorite installation of prohibited booby traps. Who even writes that? The police showed up next. 2 officers, one weary, one young enough to find it funny. Sir, the older one sighed. Your neighbor claims you've got explosive devices on your lawn. I showed them the powder, cornstarch and food dye, non-toxic, not even flammable. The younger cop asked if he could see it go off. The older glared him quiet. After a long pause, they concluded, technically, it's not illegal. But you might want to take it easy, Mr. Collins. From her porch, Karen fumed, still blotched pink and green. For the first time in months, she was the one embarrassed. For a week, she avoided my lawn entirely. I thought I'd won. Then came the kids, teenagers daring each other to run across the rainbow zone. One got blasted purple, screamed in delight, and bolted. Suddenly, my deterrent had become entertainment. That night, I watched the news with the lights off, heart-pounding, imagining the headline, "Local Man Arms Lawn with Explosives." The HOA doubled down. Fines multiplied. Letters piled up like jury summonses. Unauthorized subsurface modifications. Airborne particulate violation. Even aesthetic disruption of community cohesion. I started sleeping poorly, waiting for the next notice, the next knock. My lawyer said, Walter, you've created a liability minefield. If anyone else triggers it, you're toast. That hit me. What if a mail carrier cut across? What if a child tripped? Suddenly, the pride that had felt righteous now felt reckless. I caught myself pacing at night, staring at the lawn like it was something dangerous I'd built and couldn't unbuild. Then one evening, while taking out the trash, I ran into Karen. She looked smug again, arms folded, visor tilted like a crown. You'll take those things out, she said, or I'll have the HOA bankrupt you. Either way, Walter, you lose. Something inside me cracked, not with anger but with exhaustion. I realized this war had eaten my summer, my peace, my sanity. I wasn't defending a lawn anymore. I was defending ego. And maybe that's the most dangerous thing a man can bury in his yard. That night I grabbed gloves, a shovel, and a contractor bag. The street was silent except for cicadas. I crouched by the first mound and started to dig. The soil gave way easily, revealing the little plastic box still dusted with faint pink. I hesitated, remembering her shriek, that absurd, perfect moment of victory. But pride doesn't pay fines. One by one, I unearthed them. Blue lime, orange, violet. Each puff of leftover powder rose into the night air like the last breath of my foolish rebellion. By the time I finished, the lawn looked scarred, but lighter, as if it had sighed in relief. I went inside, washed my hands until the water ran clear, and drafted an email. Dear Brenda, as of this evening, all experimental sensors have been removed. No hazardous materials remain. 2 days later, the HOA responded. Most fines waived. Promise never to bury anything unapproved again. I signed. Sometimes surrender is the only affordable form of victory. The next morning, I saw Karen standing at the edge of my lawn visor, gleaming. She didn't say a word, just smirked like a queen inspecting conquered land. I clenched my fists but stayed silent. Let her think she won, because deep down we both knew she'd never step foot there again. Weeks passed. The grass healed. The neighborhood found new gossip, a recycling dispute, a pool schedule argument. My exploding lawn became legend, a punchline whispered at barbecues. Karen stopped acknowledging me altogether, which honestly was perfect. Silence beats trespass any day. And then one afternoon, I saw it. The neighbor's cat trotting across the street, tail-high fur streaked with neon orange. Apparently I'd missed a patch of powder. Kids cheered, calling it Rainbow Kitty. Even the HOA laughed. Karen didn't. She pointed, yelling about contamination, but nobody listened. For once her outrage bounced off the world and fell flat. I stood on my porch, watching the cat strut through the sunlight, glowing like a tiny accidental miracle. My lawn was finally mine again. Not because I'd fought harder, but because eventually I'd learned when to stop fighting. Revenge. I realized is like neon powder. It burns bright, spreads fast, and always sticks somewhere you didn't intend.